Yeah, this cute little bundle of rust and joy needs absolutely no introduction. WALL-E came out in 2008 to absolutely fantastic critical and audience response. And of course, because this was a successful kids movie, it was always going to get a movie tie-in game. Interestingly enough, WALL-E actually has more than one movie tie-in game. It has a few different versions, but today we're looking at the PC release. Anyway, before we go any further, this is your friendly reminder to subscribe to the channel. If you like licensed games, movie tie-in games, Disney, etc., you'll love this channel. This place will be great for you. And while you're at it, I even have a Discord server now, so the link for that is in my description below. Anyway, this particular version of WALL-E was developed by Asobo Studio. They worked on the PS2, PSP and PC version of the port. Although, just to note, Savage Entertainment also worked on the PSP version of the port. Asobo Studios are a French-based developer. They developed the Ratatouille tie-in game and went on to develop the Up tie-in game as well. Asobo are actually pretty heavy hitters in the industry. They've developed A Plague Tale: Innocence as well as its sequel, and also developed the 2020 Microsoft Flight Simulator, which was award-winning, and have developed 2024's version that's due to come out soon as well. Anyway, so my point is, these guys, they know what they're doing. They're pretty decent at what they do. Now, it's very hard to tie the WALL-E video game down to just one genre. If I had to sum it up, I'd say this was a momentum-based platformer with puzzle elements. And even then, that's not really summing up everything that happens in this game, because there are some other really random sections like on-the-rails shooter bits and stuff like that. But for now, let's just start with the basics, controlling WALL-E himself. So for reference, I was playing this game with an Xbox controller, so to move WALL-E around you are using the left analog stick, and to look around with the camera you obviously use the right. WALL-E has a jump with A, but unless you're going very fast up a ramp, it's not particularly efficient. You can use his lasers with Y. X is his kind of do things action, so like interact with stuff, dig stuff up, so on and so forth. And you can also go first person by using the bumper buttons. So WALL-E navigates around his environment using ramps and slopes to gain speed to jump over certain gaps, or reach places he might not have been able to just by crawling around as normal. This took a little bit of getting used to when I started playing the game, but I have to say it handles really well, and I like how the movement feels. Plus, seeing WALL-E basically just go down a half pipe is just hilarious. Now, this game has 24 levels, so I'm not going to break down each individual level in this video because otherwise we'd be here all day. But what we will do instead is break down each style of level, as there's quite a few of those anyway. So the first one I want to talk about are these frantically fast platforming sections. There will be some kind of danger that you are running away from. For example, you are running back to your trailer to shelter from the storm. And on the way, there'll be various boxes for points and score that you can destroy, as well as jumps you'll have to make. Now, I'm trying to think of a game series that's very similar to this kind of level, and I just can't quite put my finger on it.
Wait a minute! Oh, yeah!
Yes, that's right, you can make several Crash Bandicoot comparisons to this game, but I'm just going to leave it at that because I wanted to make that joke. These segments of gameplay, whilst not the most challenging thing in the world, are actually still quite difficult. There's a lot of timing involved with WALL-E's jumps, and you have to have the right amount of momentum to be able to make it. And I found myself, especially in the later parts of the game, struggling to make some of those jumps and having to do several tries. Overall though, I found these levels very engaging, fairly challenging, and pretty much just a good time all round. Yes, that's right, I know it's surprising that Kledge is actually being nice to games. Quite the character development, really. I just want to take a quick second just to showcase the death animation for when WALL-E falls. It's just so abrupt, I love it so much. Okay, so next up we're getting into the real bread and butter of this game. These levels take up pretty much most of the game, and they are the momentum-based, puzzly kind of platform sections. You'll be doing a variety of things within these levels depending on what part of the game you're in, Early game, you'll just be doing Wally's day-to-day life, then following Eve, but later on it'll be to defeat the steward bots and to save the day, save the planet, so on and so forth. Now, I've already discussed Wally's movement and how he gets around these levels, so what else do you actually need to do? There will be multiple areas in each level, and to progress into each area you will need to collect so much energy. These energy cubes can be broken by either Wally's laser or by just crashing into them. They'll be hidden behind very, very easy puzzles, in places you need to platform up to, or just places to shoot them down from. Now, sometimes to access these cubes, you'll need to get into certain rooms, and these rooms will be locked with what is essentially a QuickTime event, but the game will show as a puzzle. You will have to bypass the lock, and that will be done by using a memory game where you have to match the colors. You could just have to match the code, or repeat a pattern that's been shown to you. It's all fairly easy stuff, sometimes it just takes a bit longer and overstays its welcome, but overall it's pretty harmless. It's just a classic sign of a 2000s game. Now, the other side of the puzzle solving in this game comes from getting other rejected bots to follow you around. Just sounds like my time in school, really. But there are a variety of bots that will help you get around. There's an umbrella bot that will bounce you up to higher places. There's a bot that lights up dark spaces and scares off little Remy rat robots. There's a robot that just likes to punch stuff and punches blocks out of your way. And there's a defibrillator bot that also overrides electrical seals. And thankfully, none of these bots are a one and done kind of job. You do have to use each of these a few times throughout the game, more later on in the game because you don't find these until you get on board the ship anyway. But the real question is, how do you get these bots to follow and help you? Well, my answer is I really hope you like the song Put On Your Sunday Clothes, because you're going to be hearing it a lot. When the game opens, whenever you press RB on your controller, Wally will start playing it. That's how the bots follow you around. Anytime you finish a level, that then plays on loop until you go to the next level. I was liking it at first, but by the time I finished the game, my god, I was so sick of that song. I would add it into the video, but I'm not a fan of copyright warnings, especially from the big House of Mouse. Anyway, interestingly enough, the composer for this game is called Bruno Kuhn, and he was the same composer who did the Cars the video game soundtrack. But he actually recomposed a variant of Put On Your Sunday Clothes specifically for the game, which I think is pretty cool. But we'll get more on the music later. Now, the other major parts of these kind of levels is the combat. Ooh, okay, this is probably the only thing in the game that I wasn't too fond of. These stewards, especially in late game, will become the bane of your existence. These irritating fuckers will chase you everywhere. Now, Wally can use his laser to destroy them, but this does take quite a long time, so if you have a cube or something you can throw nearby, you're definitely better doing that, because the thing you throw will ricochet onto other bots and destroy them as well. The issue with the combat is a lot of the time it feels very claustrophobic and you don't have a lot of time to react. You can try and keep your distance, but even if you do that, the bots will throw stuff at you before you've managed to laser a single one. Or they'll spawn where the cube you need to pick up is and they'll electrocute you and you'll be dead before you can even reach the projectile to kill them in the first place. The combat isn't particularly challenging, it's just frustrating at times, to be honest with you. It's the only thing letting this game down, really. So next up we have these on-the-rails shooter moments. These ones are a bit weird and feel a bit out of place in this game, but in terms of functionality, like, they're good. Just when you've already got combat, puzzles, platforming, you don't really need on-the-rails shooter sections as well. I don't know, I know it's to break up the gameplay, but personally for me I just thought it was kind of pointless. I believe there are at least 3 of these throughout the 24 levels in this game, and they're not bad, they're just pointless. There's not really much else I can say about them, to be honest. Which takes me to the part I've been wanting to talk about, the only time in the single-player story where you get to play as Eve. There are only a couple of times you get to play as Eve throughout the game, and those times do not last very long at all. They are about a minute to a minute and a half of flying, whilst usually carrying Wally as well. You have to blast stuff out of your way, dodge projectiles, and get to the end of the level within the time limit. They are kind of similar to the Wally sections where you are racing as well, but obviously you fly. It's just a shame that obviously Eve is your secondary character and you only get to play as her for a grand total of about 3 minutes in the whole game. I mean, obviously you can just replay the levels, but that's not the point. I wanted more content, not the same stuff. Anyway, this game follows the exact events of the film, and after playing through all the levels, your final part is to play as Eve and save Wally and bring him back to the trailer. So you do this, you get a cool little cutscene, and that's it. the game ends.
But wait, there's more.
Nah, I'm just kidding, there is more to it than that. The game has some additional levels for you, and now I thought, oh, here comes the real challenge. This is going to be really difficult, it's going to be some cool time trials or challenging levels, but no, it's just more of the same shits that we've already had. I think it took me a grand total of 15 minutes to clear the additional levels, and I was taking my time as well. But you know what, they didn't have to give us anything extra out of the story, so it's nice that they did. Anyway, so with the actual gameplay wrapped up, let's talk about the graphics. Parts of this game still look amazing today. The models for Wally and Eve look phenomenal, they still hold up even in 2024. Some of the levels look really good, some of them look absolutely awful. However, the ship itself looks fantastic and all the environments around there look great when you get there. The other bots all look really nice as well. The humans, on the other hand, oh. Anyway, my man Bruno, you really cooked with this soundtrack. Like Cars the video game, the soundtrack does not have to go this hard, but Bruno has done a very good job capturing the world of Wally with the music. Even if you don't play the game, I would highly recommend that you listen to the score because it's just really good. Obviously the film's original score is fantastic as well, but this game's own is also great. Now, critically, the PC version of this game got very mixed results. The Metacritic score is 58 out of 100, but the mixture of scores is very weird. You've got a high of 75 from IGN of all people, which is quite surprising, and a very low 22 from PC Gamer, saying Wally may be rated E for everyone, but no one should be forced to play it. Personally, I think that's a little bit harsh. I would definitely put this game around the 70 mark. Not perfect, but definitely a good time. Really, other than the combat, the only other problem I experienced in this game was the camera was a bit awkward in places, especially in the couple of stealth sections where you're trying to hide from the stewards. But this game absolutely does not deserve a 22 out of 100 score from PC Gamer there, oh my god. So the final part of this game that I do have to talk about today is the multiplayer mode. Yes, this game does have a few minigames stapled on as extra, so you can play with a sibling or a friend if you like. Or if you're like me, you can just plug in an extra controller and still keep playing by yourself because you have absolutely no one else to do it with. There are 5 minigames. The first one is Plant Collection, which is about as exciting as it sounds. You just have to collect as many plants as you can within the time limit, you can attack your friend and they drop the plants, and that's it. Next up we have High Speed Flight, which is another chance to play as Eve. It's just a 3-lap race where you can shoot each other whilst you fly. It's pretty cool, I'm sure it was a lot more cool back in the day when it came out. Next up we have Spaceship Shootout, which is just the on-the-rails shoot section from the story. That's it. Again, harmless, nothing wrong with it, just kind of boring. Next up we have Wally's Race, which is just, again, very self-explanatory. You and another person playing as Wally just have to race each other across a 2-lap race. And finally we had Heavy Traffic, but I can't even show you guys this one because every time I tried to open it my game crashed and soft-locked my whole computer, But from what I can gather, the general consensus is it's just Frogger or Crossy Road, but with Wally. And there we have it, that is Wally the video game for PC. This version is pretty much identical to the PS2 and PSP version as well, and I have to say, this is a really good game. Yes, it has its flaws, it has all the bearings of a 2000s movie tie-in game, but it's also very well made. If you can get over some fairly irritating combat and an occasionally buggy camera, the rest of the game is so good. I could not recommend this one more, especially if you're a big fan of the film and you've not yet played this. Now, there is a physical version of this game for PC, but you can pick this up on Steam, currently for £16, but it does go on sale quite a lot. So if it does go down in price to a few pounds, you've got to pick it up really. I mean, hell, even looking at the Steam reviews, it's 96% positive, so there you go, it speaks for itself. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like and then subscribe. Tap the bell for notifications, you know how it goes. And all that's left for me to say is I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.